Hey everybody, welcome to the show today. I'm with my friend Deirdre. Deirdre, welcome to the show. Glad you're here.
Thanks, Max. It's a pleasure to be here. I enjoy your weekly meetings, and I'm very happy to be on the show.
Okay, cool. Right on. Yeah, well, it's been really, really cool getting to know you too. But everybody listening doesn't know you yet. So tell me a little bit about where, what kind of real estate you're doing, where you're located, that kind of thing.
Sure. I am in Connecticut and mainly do all my real estate in Connecticut, even though I'm branching out now to Texas, to tell you the truth. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So I do it in Connecticut. I am a debt negotiator. So my company negotiates short sales. We do that all over the U.S. And we do that for realtors and attorneys and just regular people. We also buy and flip properties. We buy and hold apartments, and just opened a residential assisted living. And until recently, I started and ran the Southern Connecticut Real Estate Investor Association, which is a national organization. We have the Connecticut chapter. I sold it in January, kind of good timing for me. But love the meetings, and the stipulation was they still had to have meetings down state in our area where we are. So when we can resume them, they will be here, and I love them. Love them.
Very cool. Yeah. So what are some of the things you've, learned in the meetings, and, maybe you can speak a little bit to the power of networking, because I know you do a great job of that.
Yeah. So, it's funny because people always ask me, because in the meetings, we bring in national speakers and local speakers to talk on different topics of real estate investing. And people would always, and, speakers come and they have a program. So, for instance, the residential assisted living people came last year, and this is how I met you. Right. So the residential, so many people ask me to bring in people for assisted living to speak on that topic because it's a hot real estate topic. You see all these atrias and all these big places popping up. Well, to me, I wasn't too excited, to be honest, because I'm like, I know that's a big hot topic, but it just looked like a capital raise, a syndication deal. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to, go raise millions of dollars and talk to people about finances. That seemed pretty boring to me. So, but that's what people want to hear. So I sussed it out, and I'm like, wow, I found this great company called Residential Assisted Living Academy. They were out of Arizona, and they were doing more like a group home approach to assisted living, like a smaller setting. And that really spoke to my heart because I have a brother in a group home. And when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, they didn't have the group homes like they do now. He was in a horrible prison cell-like place called Letchworth Village, which is closed down. But they like warehoused people, much like they did with the elderly people and the mentally ill. They just warehoused them. I worked with mentally ill men, and there were like 10 showers, no shower curtain, like it was inhumane. So they got rid of that approach and went to the group home approach. My brother now lives in a gorgeous, $1 million house near my parents on a regular neighborhood with 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms kind of thing. So I was very familiar with the group home. Love this approach, especially for memory care, because my mother-in-law was also in a prison-like place, and she just passed away a few months ago. Love the idea. So jumped on it, had the people come out, speak the Residential Assisted Living Academy, and a month later, they were having, where I met you, they were having a national convention, I guess, a trade show kind of thing. And I always say to people, because they would always ask, because all these speakers come out and they have, well, you could come for $1,000, buy my CDs and learn on your own, or spend more and, come in person. And I always tell everybody, you need to go in person. You're never going to learn from a CD what you're going to learn by meeting people that have already done it, that are talking the talk, that are in the audience. So even though it might be cheap to sit at home and, learn something, and you might be, brilliant and pick it up, but what I see is it's all about the networking. And when people do that, all they have is a collection of CDs and they haven't actually put anything to action. When I go somewhere, my biggest takeaway is not just from the speaker, it's the other people that have already been doing it. So when I went to Residential Assisted Living Academy, I, got the numbers of everybody that already had an assisted living. So I could talk to them, pick their brains, figure out what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they like, what they don't like. So you get so much more. So networking, I love it. And so, you have a book. So I went to one of the breakout sessions and met you. And I love that I have one of the books there. I love that you had a book that I can easily co-author just by writing a few simple chapters. And the power of a book is credibility. It gives you immediate credibility, and people respond to it even if they don't read it. And if they just read the first few chapters, that's good enough. But it gives you some presence in the community as well. And not everybody has a book. So, it's a great handout. It's a great thing to have. Personally, I love to teach, and that's how I sell. I don't like to sell. I like to teach. So starting the meetings, the Southern Connecticut RIA meetings, being the person in front of the class, it immediately gives you the status of what you're doing. You have the clout and the status just by standing up there. Just by the person asking the questions, you kind of look like the smartest person in the room. Even though you're the one, I always ask a lot of questions and people are like, you seem like the smartest person in the room. I'm like, no, I don't know any of these answers. Like, what? I'm the one asking the questions. How do I look smart? I don't know any of this stuff. That's why I'm asking questions. But just being inquisitive is, shows up as you know what you're doing, which is kind of ironic. But I loved being in front of the room. I love meeting like-minded people, and I love to teach and share. I have an abundance mindset, and I feel like, we live, and I know you called Connecticut rural the other day, which is pretty funny, but, I live in a city of 125,000 people. I know that's not Manhattan, but it's not really rural, but it's, there are so many houses here. So there's an opportunity for everybody to make money on whatever they're doing. So I love to teach. So I did start with your book, with the residential assisted living, and the whole goal was with the book and the workbook, which I love. I'm actually going to take it to my mom's house and do it with her. The workbook and the book was to go in front of all the senior centers, and I had 19 of them set up starting March, and I went to one, and then COVID hit. So, but it was very well received, and at the senior center, people asked me so many questions about different things like Title 19 spend down, which is how you get on our Medicaid here, and things I had no clue about. So luckily, well, not luckily, but since I couldn't do the book anymore, I decided to start a Facebook Live, Let's Talk Seniors Memory Care issue show, and I interview people every night, Monday through Thursday. I have learned so much, Max, I can't even tell you. I have learned so much that now when I can actually go to senior centers, I am a wealth of information now for these people. It's not just about what I know from the book and what I can tell them. I know so much about assessment and senior living and pricing and how they can get on veteran benefits. And I know so much now about so many things that I'm psyched. So I'm learning so much that I can't wait to get out and use my book and workbook now and really know what I'm talking about when I'm meeting seniors and really being able to help them. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah, unbelievable. So you've really done a lot, in all of this that you pretty much said has happened in less than a year. So I want to ask you about, from when you decided the residential assisted living is the way that you wanted to go. How did you know, your area was a good area? How did you kind of make that assessment, and how did you know what direction to take, the facility that you built that's beautiful and taking in people right now?
My area's not a good area. It is a good area and it's not. So how I knew it was a good area is because we have an aging population of people, and you can kind of follow a trend, right? If you want to know you can follow Starbucks if you want to know where the population's growing, right? Or a Home Depot, because they do so many studies. So it's the same with these assisted livings. So they were opening a very big assisted living in the town that I was going to. So I knew that it was needed there. And then I just looked around for the assisted livings, and you could see the growing population in your area. So, and you can read all the statistics on it. It is the largest growing segment in our nation. And people are living forever, to be over 100. So, and I chose memory care for assisted living because I felt like it was a need. The non-memory care is a choice, right? My mom's 83 and she drives and she lives in a big house and she's fine and takes art lessons. My dad passed recently. I'd love her. I'd love her to be in an independent living situation with a bunch of other people where it's like a big cruise ship and she's doing fun things. That's a choice. When you get to need memory care, you need 24-hour care like my mother-in-law did for the last 13 years. It is not a choice. It is, if somebody's home with you, which she was home with us for a while, somebody needs to be with her 24 hours a day. And our place is less expensive than hiring somebody for 24 hours a day. And it's beautiful and it gives socialization. So I love the whole concept, and I'm kind of a jump on it person. I'm like a shiny new object person too. So I immediately went out and started looking for a house and bought one, and then renovated the whole thing to be in exactly what I needed. And it's beautiful and I love it. Unfortunately, it's COVID, so now we have to get residents. Why it's a little challenging here in Connecticut is we do not have the laws for it. We do not have zoning. It's not on the zoning books. So even though there's 47,000 across the nation, I'm the sixth one in Connecticut. So the gentleman that owns the other 5 has been super instrumental in helping me set mine up and helping me with the zoning laws and how to kind of do a workaround so everything's legal. So that has been a bit of a challenge here, and getting it known. Like, everybody drives up to the house to come see it and calls me. I'm not sure if I'm in the right place. This is the house. I'm like, I've sent you a picture. I've told you it's a house. It's a house. Come in. And they're like, wow, it's a regular house. And I'm like, yes. So it's a concept that if they've never been around a group home, for instance, they don't know what it is. So it's just funny because it's big in other parts of the country.
Sure. So, well, let's speak to that a little bit. So let's talk about like the tale of two, memory care facilities. So one of them is what people are traditionally used to seeing, and then one of them is, what you have, and you've been a real, trailblazer in Connecticut. And so there's a lot of, education around this, but like you said, it's popular in a lot of other parts of the country. So what are some of the key differences, between the two types of facilities?
Oh, well, the huge difference is we're non-medical, as most facilities are also non-medical, even though we have a weekly nurse and a nurse on call. The big difference is the care. So we have 2 people all day long to 6 residents. So it's 1 caregiver to 3 people, which you won't find anywhere else. So that is the biggest difference. That's huge. It's also a beautiful home. It's not an institution, and it's not a hall. There's no elevator. So you have a person with memory care issues. It's locked down. It's a keypad entry. It's a camera security system. There's a fire suppression system. We had a backup generator. So a week ago we had a little tornado here, and we don't really have tornadoes, but tornado-ish.
Sure.
The whole neighborhood lost power, and we had a full backup generator. So we invite all the neighbors to come over and see the place and power up their phones and take a shower if they wanted. Nobody took us up on the shower, but they did come over and see the place. The big difference is they're free. So people with memory care, they need to be in a place that they are safe and that they're not wandering and that they know familiarity and that they can get around themselves. So it gives them more of a sense of independence because it's a regular house. Picture like mom and dad with 6 kids. I know you can picture this because it's close to your life. Mom and dad and 6 kids all day long in a home, entertaining those kids all day long, feeding, entertaining, bathing, amusing them, and doing whatever's needed. That's what it's like. So they're not kids, of course, they're adults, but we're bringing in, arts and crafts and music therapy, pet therapy, and all sorts of things daily, puzzles and all, but the care is unbelievable. So the care and also it's specialized. So let's say you wake up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10, whenever you wake up, our house manager is going to make you breakfast. You want oatmeal? You want eggs and bacon? She's going to cook for you, right? And then lunch and dinner are together. But if you want lobster, somebody wants a hamburger, I'm not saying we're making 6 meals, but, we can tailor it to people. So we're so much more flexible. And also, we cost less than the price of having a caretaker overnight in your house. So if you have a caretaker living with you 7 days a week or overnight, we cost less than that. And you don't have to pay for your house, your electric, your anything, your taxes, your upkeep. And the beautiful part too is if you have a caretaker in your house one-on-one, super boring for both people. There's not much interaction, especially with somebody that might not be that verbal anymore. And so the caretaker gets a little complacent and bored. You get a little complacent and bored as a person. But with 2 caretakers and 6 people, even if your parent isn't speaking or very, very verbal, just being around other people and observing that there's other people in the room, that could be enough interaction for them that day. And also the caretakers have other people to work off of, with another caretaker, and they have more people. So it's more stimulus for everybody. And so price, we're well priced. And the care. Care is the biggest. We're well priced and we're super flexible. So, and it's beautiful and it's a regular neighborhood, so it's safe and COVID free.
Good. That's good. Yeah, it's probably, I can really relate to the 2 caregivers and 6 kids. That's my exact home. And yeah, you're right. There is a lot of ebb and flow and the interaction. And if it was just one person, that would get kind of boring. So it sounds like an amazing setup. Let me ask you this. I know you've worked with a lot of different families and spoken to a lot of families who are trying to figure out what the needs are. Do folks normally, how do families, the adult children of these seniors who have the memory care issues, is it normally a medical diagnosis that leads them to this discovery? How do people kind of figure out, is it a slow or a quick process when people, go from, having their memory intact to starting to get dementia? What does that look like for families maybe who are listening and are kind of trying to figure out, is this just old age? Do we contact a doctor? Is this normal? What do you see in that, around that area?
Well, serendipitously, I had a lady from the Alzheimer's Association on last night talking about this issue. So on my Facebook live show. So basically the signs are, when people start to change what they usually do. So, for instance, your parents are driving and now they don't know where they are. Well, honestly, I'm always lost when I'm driving. So that's not new. So that wouldn't be new for me. But if you knew where you were going all the time and now you're lost driving, that would be a new thing. So if they're getting lost, if they can't remember things, and it's not remembering, it's like it's not short-term memory. It's actually learning new things they can't absorb. So we call it short-term memory, but they can't absorb something new that they just learned. So having trouble absorbing something new, being forgetful to the point that it's harmful, like leaving on, a gas stove or something, change, just like a change in behavior, not just a little forgetfulness, but a change. It also could be a change in health or a change could show up as depression. So yeah, they would go to the doctor, and there are tests you could take, and there's blood tests you could take, and there's things you could do. So there is medicine you could take for Alzheimer's and dementia, but the medicine doesn't cure anything. It doesn't slow anything down. But let's say your dementia is making you feel a little fuzzy or cloudy in thought. This will add clarity often. It doesn't mean everybody needs medicine. But if you go on medicine, it's like to add clarity, not to slow anything down, not to stop your dementia, Alzheimer's, but it does always progress. It is always a progression. Everybody that's older does not get dementia. But if you get dementia, it is going to be a progression. And if it's I had a funny thing, like my girlfriend Lynn, her dad, who just died on 4th of July. 8 years ago, he went into a nursing home because he had a stroke. And then it looked like he went downhill like that. It looked like he had major Alzheimer's and dementia. And he was running, he was a CPA. He still had his office open. He was fine. And she put him in a nursing home, and it was some medicine he was on, giving him the look of dementia. He wanted to come home. And my girlfriend said, only if you can get yourself home, knowing he wasn't capable. And he totally came out of it, got himself home, and lived another 8 years. So, I mean, if you could go, it could be a medicine you're on causing you. Because if you've ever seen a senior with like a UTI, urinary tract infection, they go from being regular to like hallucinating, and then they're cured and they're regular. If you haven't seen this happens in seniors, Max. I witnessed it with my dad. He was in the hospital and my dad was lucid, but he had heart issues. And he'd have a UTI laying in that hospital bed. And I'd go there and he'd be hallucinating and I would start crying and like, oh my God. And the next, like 2 days later, he's fine because, they gave him medicine. Wow. That happens when you're older. So any change you have to look for. Okay. Also, there are signs if you're not living with your parent, for instance, like my mother-in-law, she wasn't showering and her bathtub was full of like a hamper and clothing. Like obviously she wasn't even using it. So if they're not showering, if they're not doing regular things, it could be they're afraid to get in a tub or, just afraid of falling. So you may have to look for signs of everyday daily living, they call it. Are they eating properly? Are they losing weight? Are they not bathing? Are they like that? Forgetting who people are.
Sure. Okay. Well, that sounds good. So why don't we you had answered most of the things that I wanted to get, addressed in here. Lastly, as we kind of close up, what is the best way that that if somebody's interested in learning more about your facility, and maybe can you speak a little bit to where you guys are geographically, and how people can find you, and how wide of a radius you serve?
Well, it's interesting. So we're in Connecticut. We're in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is about 50 miles outside of New York City. And because of COVID in New York City, we've had kind of a crazy thing going on here. Every surrounding town everything surrounding New York City, there's a mass exodus around New York City right now. And anybody with a second home or money is there because of COVID and because the city's basically shut down. So there's barely a restaurant, a play, a museum to go to. There's like, why would you stay in a high-rise building all day, cooped up? My daughter and her new husband, she's got married 2 weeks ago, COVID style on top of a apartment house with 15 people. But why? They're in a better apartment, New York City, both working out of the living room, can't go anywhere. Like you're kind of trapped. You don't have a car. So we are getting so many people from New York City now. So even people are sending their parents out of New York City to the suburbs, Connecticut, to be safe because they think another round of COVID might be coming. So we serve Fairfield County area, and even if your parent doesn't live nearby and you do.
Once again, tell us the best way to reach you. So we'll put the website down below and just go to the website and all the contact info is there. What if somebody wants a copy of your book? How do they get a copy?
Sure. They can get a copy of my book very easily. They could call me at 203-570-4839. They can email me at dvirvo@justlikeHome.llc.com, or my website is justlikeHomeLLC.com. LLC. That's it.
Cool. Good. Well, we'll put it down below. And thanks again for coming on today, and looking forward to having you back soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Max, and thanks for everything you do.
Hey, my
appreciate
pleasure.
it.